When I was 19, I moved to a different city with a boy I was dating, but we still had different housing. My dad has PTSD from Afghanistan and always taught me to lock my doors during all times of the day and gave me a shotgun to protect myself in the city since I was living alone. I don't remember when it started, but I would get nervous about small sounds in the house. For a while, I dismissed it as paranoia about living alone, but then one night I knew I could feel someone in the apartment. My boyfriend was spending the night and was a large football player with a black belt, so I wasn't too worried for him to look around. He checked all the closets and rooms and the locks, and there was nobody. Sometime later, we came back to my apartment after being out for the day. I always check to make sure it's still locked before I put the key inside. It was locked and we walked in. The instant I walked in, I just knew that there was someone inside. I could feel them. My boyfriend checked everything again and again, and there wasn't anyone there though. So time passed and we broke up, and I started dating another person. I got my bipolar diagnosis and was in a crisis. My now ex and friends were over, and he made a scene about my new boyfriend. I threw everyone out and binge drank and blacked out. I came to, trash-talking myself in a mirror, but then there were figures all around me watching. More time passed, and at this point, it wasn't unusual for me to see the figures in my doorway, and it only happened when I was alone. Sometimes they were only in the doorway reflection of my mirror, not in the real doorway. Last spring I was in Virginia mining village with my family to bury my grandmother at a family cemetery. One of the nights at the hotel, I woke my entire family with screaming. In my dream, I was in my childhood home, and there was a Slenderman-esque shadow person there. He opened his mouth, and it got huge, and TV static came out of it so loudly it hurt. I had anxiety over this for months. For a long time, I only saw them by myself in my room, or if I was driving at night. My doctor said that the driving ones are normal for people to see, and dismissed them. I slept with the lights on, a lot. But then I started seeing them when I'd visit my mum or when my boyfriend was spending the night. I've pointed them out to my boyfriend, but he doesn't see them. This fall, I started getting sleep paralysis too. The first time, I thought I heard my boyfriend shuffling around at the edge of the bed, but when I tried to look up, I couldn't. And it was a shadow person. He walked up to me and reached down and held his hand over my eyes. I tried to scream, but couldn't. The second time, I woke up to hands clasping my shoulders. One of them grabbed my neck and started choking me. I couldn't breathe. I tried to make noise by blowing out air and woke my boyfriend. He grabbed my hand and the grip around my neck tightened. My boyfriend shook me out of it. These figures are nearly always men with no facial features. Sometimes there is one, and sometimes there are many. They are menacing. Once I woke up to the force of a woman throwing herself angrily on top of me, and I hid under the covers. Sometimes they feel more real than others, so I can ignore them or jump up screaming. I get nightmares of them chasing me around the apartment, and recently my mum told me that my dad had a nightmare of shadow people chasing him, and it really scared him. The meds the doctors are giving me don't seem to stop them, and my doctors don't know why, but lately they've started waving at me from my doorway. Just to preface everything, I'm a 26-year-old male who currently lives in Richmond, VA. I would never have expected this to happen to me, but hey, here I am. It's a bit of a long one, so bear with me. My friends and I decided to go to a little brewery in a nice part of town, sipping beers and playing Cards Against Humanity, nothing crazy. I went up to the bar to order another beer, and my friend walking past me jokingly shoulder bumped me, and I gave him a nudge back. Here's where things started to get weird. King Jellybean, male, late 30s, tall and average looking, except for his dead eyes, saw this and approached.
Why did he just do that?
Oh, that? He's just my friend, just messing around.
Oh, are you going to do anything about it?
Clearly fucking joking, I say. "Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna kill him later."
Can you tell it to me in a poem?
Yeah, seriously, it went down like this. I don't remember what I said, but I actually word vomited something out after realizing that he was dead serious.
I can respect that.
He then extends his hand for a handshake. I could already tell that the guy was fucking Looney Tunes, but I was like, meh, fuck it. So I shook his hand. Let me tell you, this guy had an iron grip. Like, scary strong, and he held onto my hand for a little too long. So I wriggled my hand free and decided that maybe I should get his name, just as a precaution in case anything goes down. "So friend, what's your name?" He then mumbles, inaudibly and incoherently. I tried again, but nothing. So I just smiled and walked back to my table. The hairs on the back of my neck were a little tingly, but I figured I was just being paranoid. Once I got back to my table, I saw out of my peripherals that he was still watching me. I decided to tell my friends about this little encounter, but they brushed it off as nothing. So again, I went with, meh, fuck it. A little while later, there was a break in our main game, so a couple of us decided to drain the main vein. My friend and I were walking past the bar to the bathroom in the back, and sure enough, King Jellybean stepped directly in front of me and insisted that I shake his hand again. So, like an idiot, I did. I tried to make small talk during this creepy handshake, but again, the dude just mumbled some things. By this point, my friend had already pissed and was now exiting the bathroom. As he walked by, he heard me say something along the lines of, "Alright, you're hurting my hand now. I've got to pee, so I'm gonna go." He started to walk back to the bathroom as soon as I got my hand free, so instead, I just walked back to my table because I didn't want to go near him. My friends were now aware of him and were equally creeped out. 10 minutes go by, and I really had to pee now, seeing as I've been holding it. I told my friends this, and one of them jokingly said to, "Watch out, he might be waiting in the bathroom for you." A little light clicked on in my brain, and we looked around the room. He wasn't there. We were sitting by the exit and definitely didn't see him go, so now I'm really freaked out. I asked one of them to come to the bathroom with me, so I walked to the closer one. The light was off with the door slightly ajar. I nudged it open a few feet and didn't see anything inside, just darkness with a vague silhouette of the bathroom fixtures. But still, something just felt off. I turned to my friend. "Dude, I don't know, it just feels off." My friend started saying something. I don't know what he said because out of my peripheral vision, my nightmare happens. The door opens and he's fucking standing there in the dark doorway, alone, staring at me with the creepiest smile I've ever fucking seen. Just to paint a mental picture, the guy was standing alone in a bathroom with the fucking lights off, just waiting for me to walk in for over 10 minutes. According to my friends who were watching this from across the room, my reaction was just to yell, "Oh hell no," and I proceeded to make a beeline back to the table while just shouting, "Nope, nope." I wish I could say that we confronted him or called the cops, but I was honestly too freaked out. We just grabbed our coats and got the fuck out of there. Who knows what the hell would have happened if I'd gone in, or if another person did. Luckily, I don't have that answer. My patient died on the wing I work on. She was terminal, but not expected to go immediately. She was going to a new facility after a fairly long battle with cancer. She was scheduled to go early the next morning, and the husband had plans on meeting her there. Everything was set up. She was in good spirits. Her assessment was fine. She took her medications and said that she was going to watch the news, then take a nap. An hour later, I go to check on her. I'm quietly checking her IV, making sure her stuff is in reach, move her table, and then notice that she was gone. She was sitting up, holding onto the side rail. She honestly looked like she was sleeping. But there was no heartbeat, no respiration. Most of the time when people expire, their mouths drop open. It's really obvious. With her, no. I had to even call a co-worker to confirm. I was expecting a wake-up, but she was gone. I attempted to contact her husband, who I couldn't reach, and started the paperwork, in addition to attending my other patients. A few minutes later, I'm by the central desk and someone asks, "Where were you?" And I told them I was giving medication down the hall. I see two of the other nurses exchange looks, but nurses are weird, and since they didn't elaborate, I continue on my nightly duties. I'm at the very end of the hall doing some patient education, and the charge nurse comes and gets me. I assume that the husband is calling back, but that wasn't the case. Apparently, as I've been caring for my other patients at the opposite end of the ward, there have been some phone calls coming out of the deceased patient's room to the central station. There were several of them, no answer, just breathing. I mean, this has to be a prank, right? But the phone rings, and I look and see the patient's room number on the caller ID. I walk in the room. The phone is neatly on the bedside table. The TV is off, and the deceased patient looks like she's napping. I check the bathroom. It's empty. I'm going to leave the door open, halfway, I say as I leave the room. There were no more phone calls after that, but for the next hour, alarms go off in the empty rooms. Call lights come on for patients that can't move. An important piece of equipment died, and the dementia patient keeps complaining about the other patient that keeps coming into her room, loosely fitting the description of the deceased. The husband finally comes to the unit because he knew why I was calling. He spends a few minutes with her. When he comes out of the room, he finds me and says, "She told me this morning that she didn't ever want to go to a nursing home." Well, I guess she meant it. And after that, everything returned to normal. Well, normal as far as hospitals go, anyway. First of all, I'm a young woman, barely big enough to walk my dog. If this had escalated at all, I have no idea what would have happened. I'm not easily frightened, but this scared the shit out of me. It actually happened last night, and I have no idea if it'll happen again, but I figured it was bizarre enough to post here. It's just me and my giant dog in a nice private apartment attached to some townhouses separated from the other buildings by a strip of woods. It's kind of like a tiny house that just shares a wall with the apartment building. As nice as it is, it's in a not so nice part of town. But I have a backyard, my own space, and working electricity for cheap. So I love this place. It's my first time living out on my own, and I'm not gonna lie, I've been a little freaked out about living alone, even with a big dog for security. Last night definitely didn't help. So I was laying in bed browsing Reddit and trying to fall asleep when I heard tapping on the window. My bedroom has 2 windows facing the backyard on ground level, about 3 meters from the tree line with nothing but open grass outside. At first, since I'm not used to sleeping on the first floor, I thought it was a tree or something blowing up against the outside of the house. When I remembered that I'm on the first and only floor with no trees close enough to reach the house, I started to feel a little bit nervous. I was some weird mix of both scared and annoyed that the tapping was keeping me awake. The noise had my dog's attention, but he wasn't barking yet, which meant that it probably wasn't a person, so I wasn't as afraid as I could have been. Gradually, annoyance replaced the fear, and I decided I should tell whatever it was to knock it off. It had been nearly 30 minutes of this weird, uneven tapping. It was almost midnight, and I had an early start in the morning. Best case scenario, there was no one outside and I was talking to myself with no one there to hear me. Worst case, there was someone outside. My nonchalance would catch them off guard, and they would leave, right? Yeah, absolutely. I figured if there was someone there, they'd expect fear, not confrontation. I worked up some courage and called, "Fuck off," into the dark. The tapping continued though. A couple of seconds later, I repeated a little louder, Fuck off, I'm trying to sleep. The tapping stopped. After a second, I heard a male voice call back.
Sorry.
The tapping didn't start again, but holy fuck. I didn't expect someone to actually be there. I got out of bed and ran to the window with my phone in hand, ready to call the police. But when I peeked through the blinds, I saw the guy with his hands up and the weirdest smile on his face. I quickly turned my phone flashlight on and put it in front of my face so that he couldn't see what I looked like. A few seconds later, I turned the light off, and he hadn't moved an inch, not even his face. He still had that weird, creepy smile and stared at the window with his hands up, like he was posing for a photo or something. In hindsight, I don't know why I didn't take one. Finally, he turned around and started walking back through the woods, and into what I assume was his own apartment right across from mine. What a way to meet the neighbors. I have no idea what possessed him to tap on my window for half an hour or what he had in mind, but he hasn't come back yet. I'm not sure what I'll do if he does. I didn't fall asleep last night, and I'm nervous to go to bed tonight, but I have class in the morning. Besides, I have a big scary dog for exactly this reason. I should be fine, but still, what kind of person just knocks on some stranger's window at midnight? When I woke up this morning, I saw that the window pane on the outside had a few deep scrapes. I'm not sure if the guy made them, but I'm reporting it to the management and maybe the police tomorrow. I don't want to know why this guy wanted into my bedroom if he did. I hope he just wanted to rob me. My house has 3 stories, including the basement. All the doors are upstairs, and my old room just happened to be right below the door to the attic. I always found it incredibly hard to sleep in that room, as it was always either freezing in winter or nearly 100 degrees in summer. None of the other rooms had this, but I always assumed that it was just faulty heating or something. Anyway, around 3 years ago, I started hallucinating at night. They were things like my blanket turning into a giant snake and falling off of my bed, or ants everywhere that would disappear when I turned my light on. So at night, I don't take anything I see seriously, as it's usually just my overactive imagination. It started when I first moved into the house. I slept in a different room, but of course, still had trouble sleeping. Every night, at the exact same time when everyone was asleep but me, something would knock on the roof 4 times. It was always 4 times. It sounded like a hammer kind of. Nothing too ominous. It continued for about a week before it stopped. I never told anyone because I knew they wouldn't believe me, and I knew I couldn't tell whether it was real or not. Other small stuff happened. Sometimes when I was upstairs alone, my door would open or close on its own, but I always wrote it off as the wind. The thing that freaked me out though was that my dog, who stays in my room most of the time, would start to bark every time it happened. After the 3rd time, it was obviously not a coincidence. From then on, I tried to avoid going upstairs alone. It was just unsettling. Then it got worse. I was home alone one day, but this time it was broad daylight. I was watching TV. My dog was with me downstairs. That's when I heard scraping from upstairs, as well as a clicking. It sounded like dog nails hitting wood. I, of course, freaked out but tried to ignore it. The noise continued, but it now sounded like whatever was upstairs was opening and closing doors, as well as flicking lights on and off. I just turned the TV up, trying to pretend that it wasn't happening, but it got worse. And the worst part about it was I knew that this was real, because I don't see things during the daytime. And plus, my dog actually went upstairs to whatever was making the noise, which freaked me the fuck out because whatever that was something she was used to and comfortable with. The noises eventually stopped, but I put off going upstairs for as long as I could. That night it was really late and dark in my room, and as always, I couldn't sleep. I stared at my ceiling when I noticed a black square. The door to my attic was halfway open, but no one had gone in and out of there for years. We didn't even keep anything up there other than insulation. I got the fuck out of my room after that. I ended up sleeping on the couch, and the next day I asked my family if anyone had gone into the attic. Of course, no one had. I still don't know what's in my house, but I've since traded my room with my brother. One of the rare times I went back into that room and sat on his bed while he was in the bathroom because his room has the Wi-Fi router in it, I swear that I heard loud breathing coming from under the bed. I was definitely wide awake. Okay, some context. I'm a 24-year-old guy. This happened to me about 6 months ago. I live in a rather large apartment complex, one that is very open and social. People are always outside, waving to each other, having drinks and barbecues, stuff like that. It's quite a safe place, with people looking out for each other all the time, and if anything happens, everyone is usually in the know. Anyway, I live at the higher part of my building, very close to the roof. In fact, there's a door near my place next to some stairs leading up to it, so it isn't that hard to get up there. I've personally only been up there once before, and after this, I don't plan on going up there alone. It was about 8 o'clock at night, and I was on my computer checking my email, as well as just relaxing and browsing different sites. Well, at that moment, my internet decides to up and shit itself. Now, this is pretty common, as I use my building's Wi-Fi, and it does this at certain points. This normally would be okay, but I was reading about 3 important emails, and couldn't check the other 2 at the time because I hadn't opened any other tabs. So I decided to head outside, around to another building at a friend's house, who I know. They're really nice about letting me use their internet when things like this happen. So I'm getting up to leave my place, and I get into the hallway, when I hear a thump up above, on the roof. This didn't surprise me that much though. I thought it was probably someone up there drinking or hanging out. Sometimes it happens. So I get to the bottom of the building and I'm leaving, and I hear a loud rattle from the roof. I look up and I don't see anything. I brush it off as a random person on the roof who fell or something like that. So I continue walking. A few minutes later, I'm nearing my friend's building and I hear a nearby bush shake. I'm getting a little weirded out at this point, but I dismiss it as a cat or a lizard moving around in the bush and just keep walking. I arrive at my friend's place and sit down on the curb near the entrance. I pull out my phone and unlock it, and go to my email and continue where I left off. A few minutes into reading it, I hear another rattle, like at my building, only now it's here. I'm getting an increasingly bad feeling about this, but I keep telling myself it's nothing. About 5 minutes later, I happen to look up at the roof and get startled for a minute. There's a guy peering down at me, crouching. I figure he's just enjoying the view of the place and just happened to be looking at me for the moment. I shine the light from my phone at him and I can make out more features. He's wearing tattered pants, a black hoodie and a mask. One of those white masks that you buy at a party store. Only on it, there's drawn a really large smile. Now this creeped me the fuck out for a moment. But again, I give myself an excuse to brush it off. I laugh nervously at the guy and just go back to reading. I look up a few minutes later and the guy is sticking his head over even more. I'm starting to get scared now. This is beginning to feel like some sort of horror story. It was just me and this guy out there, and I really didn't know what the fuck he wanted. So I decided to get up and just walk back to my place. I get back with no trouble and start laughing by the time I get there, thinking about how silly I was. The guy was probably some prankster trying to scare me or something. So I'm in a good mood walking to the entrance, and I look up, and immediately feel all my good mood drain away. That same fucking guy is there, only now he's on my roof, in that same creepy manner, staring down at me. I figure he must have run over when I left and gotten on top of the roof before I got there. So I'm just standing there, frozen for a moment, and this guy tilts his head, as if he's wondering what's wrong. I quickly head inside and just try to forget it, going to my place and locking my door. My internet is working now anyway. So, later that night, I decided to go to sleep, and I lay in my bed for a while. Finally, I start getting sleepy and shut my eyes. A little while later, I hear tapping on my window near my balcony, so I get up to investigate the noise. I go to my balcony's glass door, pull back the curtain, and immediately scream. The guy, who I'll call the roof man for obvious reasons, is fucking hanging from the roof and just staring at me upside down. He tilts his head and I'm standing there frozen, wondering where the fuck this psychopath came from. What he does next frightens me even more. He climbs down onto my balcony and knocks on my glass door like he wants in. When I don't comply, he starts banging lightly. This process escalates until he rams into the glass full force, cracking it. By this time, I'm scrambling up and unlocking my door to get the fuck out of there. I open the door and go out quickly as I hear glass shatter. I shut the door and run down the hall and bang on the neighbor's door. I hear my neighbor come to answer and look back at my place down the hall and see my door open and the roof man peeks out. At this moment, my neighbor answers and looks at me, worried. I point down the hall and he looks. The roof man is standing there, just staring us down. He suddenly breaks into a sprint, running at us like crazy. My neighbor pulls me into his place quickly and closes the door. A couple of seconds after, we feel a loud banging at the door, much louder than my banging earlier. We look at the people and see that he's relentlessly ramming the door. The door holds up though, and after a while, he gives up and runs off. We called the cops and they searched the complex for him, but he wasn't there. I don't know what scares me more, that horrific night or knowing that he's still out there, and he could do that again to me, or potentially someone else. My neighbor kindly allowed me to stay at his place for a while, saying that he understood and that if something like that happened again, he'd have my back. Honestly, I can't thank him enough. So, now, here I sit, still in my neighbor's place, relaxing and watching TV. I haven't seen the psychopath since that night 6 months ago. Thank God. First of all, I want to say that I don't believe in paranormal nonsense. But this, what happened to me and my friends, I can't explain. I live in Lithuania. That's a small country between Russia and the Baltic Sea. It's kind of a second world country, and we're struggling to keep up with other European Union countries. And also, we have a lot of resemblances to our neighbour, Russia. As for me, I'm not one to be scared lightly, because my father always pushed me to do something to improve myself and my body. So I've been doing boxing from the age of 6. We have just finished school, and me and my friend Vaska, we started doing some small business with the help of his father. After our hard days of work, we would do a daily drive around the city, picking up girls and drinking beer at a local bar. But we got tired of that routine soon, and started searching for calmer places to chill. So we asked around some friends, and they said there's a place in the suburbs where they go to smoke weed. There's no action, no cops, and no one around for almost 24/7. But there is a spooky-ass barn there, which is abandoned. We didn't give a damn about the barn, and after our hard-working day had ended, we searched the coordinates of the abandoned place and got there at about 7 p.m. The first impression we had was that the place was shit. There was a small parking lot, the old barn looked like it was abandoned for ages, and all of the area was surrounded by scarce trees. There was nobody around though, so we liked the seclusion. We started going there once or twice a week to talk about shit we had to deal with, or just chill. But after about a month of going there, weird things started to happen. It was a Friday, and we brought some beer and drove to the barn. It was springtime, around 8 p.m. and the sun was setting, so it was getting pretty dark quickly. We were talking casually when we heard something crisping in the back seat of the car. The sound was metallic. It sounded like a small spring from a pen being twisted or something. We looked at each other with confusing looks and started talking again. But the sound was getting more loud until it really started creeping us out. We got out of the car to look what was going on. Just as we got out, the sound stopped. I suggested that it was simply the car seat strings. The idea calmed us, and the evening went normal from then on. After about 3 or 4 days, we made the same trip to the barn. This time, we were too tired and we had nothing to talk about, so we took my laptop and watched a movie. But the sound came back, and this time it was louder than before, and it really spooked Vasca. "What the fuck is that noise?" he asked. "I don't know, but stay in your seat, I'll check the trunk," I said to him. After I opened the trunk, the sound stopped instantly. It was confusing. Seat springs couldn't emit that loud metallic sound. It was impossible, and the car engine was turned off for about 20 minutes back then, so it couldn't be that either. I just got back in the driver's seat and said, "Well, that was some fucking weird shit." Instantly, after I said that, my cell phone in my pocket started to ring. When I looked at it, there was no caller ID, and the cell phone was ringing in my hand, but the phone screen was black. It stopped just after I unlocked the screen, and then it hit me. It wasn't even my ringtone. My friend and I shared the same confused look, and figured that we should go home now. After I got back home, I started messaging these experiences to another of my close friends, David. He of course laughed and said that I was talking shit. I knew that he would think I was trying to fool him, so I offered him to come with us another time when we drive there. But that would be the last fucking time I went there. Almost 2 weeks have passed after our last visit to the barn place, and as I had promised, I took David there too. It was around 9 PM when we got there. I was driving, Vasca was sitting in the front seat, and David sat in the middle of the back seat. We were talking about girls, just sitting in the car laughing and making fun of each other, when that damn metallic spring sound started going on again. I told them to quieten down, and we listened to the sound for a while. It wasn't as loud as before. Then David said, "You guys are kidding, right? This is the worst attempt to trick someone I've ever seen." We told him straight up that we weren't doing this, and my phone rang once more. The phone screen was black like before, and after I unlocked it, it stopped. David did see that the screen was black, but said that I probably have some app installed to trick him. After a few seconds, Vasquez's phone started to ring too, and it was the same ringtone as mine. That really spooked me, and I felt adrenaline rushing to my head, and I saw David getting confused, and he said, "Okay, this is really weird. I think we should get out of here, guys." "What? You're not being a scared little bitch, are you?" I mocked him, but inside, I was getting a little bit scared too. And then, the most frightening fucking shit in my life happened. There was a sound from my phone, and it said, "You don't belong here." It was my fucking phone speaking. The voice was like an echo, but it wasn't any of our voices. What the fuck? The hair on my body stood straight up, and I felt like it was about 20 degrees colder than a second ago. I saw that Vasquez's breath was now visible, and David turned pale. There was no way that we made that shit up. It freaked us so fucking hard that we panicked like hell. I tried to start the engine, but there was no reaction to the key, and that got me panicking even more, and my friend started shouting, "What the fuck, dude? Go! Go!" And as I finally started the car, the headlights turned on as well, and what we saw that moment, I still can't explain. It was so terrifying that I couldn't feel my legs or my hands. We saw 3 fucking shadows from below the car, standing directly in front of us. I immediately turned the lights off and stepped on it. My heart was pounding so hard that I could hear it. It was really hard to drive without lights on, so I turned them on again. Thankfully, those fuckers were gone. David tried to calm Vasca down, as he was shook up more than us. I asked them both, did they see what I saw, and they confirmed that they saw those shadows. We were speeding, but honestly, I didn't care, because there were almost no police in this part of the suburbs, and I just had to get somewhere where I could feel safe again. We chose to go to the local shopping centre, as there were some people and the parking lot was highly lit. We just sat there for almost half an hour and couldn't say a word. After the adrenaline rush came down, we tried to explain logically what the hell happened, but we just couldn't explain it. The phone's ringing and the metallic twisting sound could be explained by radio interference or backseat springs, but the voice and those shadows, there was nothing else in front of us. The car we drove that day, it almost has no engine bay. In other words, we definitely would have seen someone sneaking up towards us. And the cold, how did it get so cold all of a sudden? After that, we never went to that place again, and convinced our friends that there is something bad happening in there, so they wouldn't go in there either. I later found out that the barn belonged to some Christian dean who died in a strange way. The thing is, nobody knows exactly how he died though, and the barn was abandoned ever since he died. I know plenty of you won't believe what I've told you here, but hell, I wouldn't believe this shit either if I hadn't seen it. If someone could explain what the hell those shadows were, I would sure love to know. I'll be sure to read the comments. I work at my local county animal shelter. Done it for a few years, and it's pretty much what I was meant for. The way the block is set up, it's like one winding stretch of county buildings. Basically, there's everything on this block from doctors to the homeless shelter, so this block has some pretty interesting characters. But no biggie, I live in a pretty shit area, so crazy stuff happens all the time anyway. Someone jumped out of their car and stabbed someone in a different car in traffic in front of me last year. Didn't even make the news. It even took the cops almost 30 minutes to get there, so the cops suck too. But anyway, my job lets me bring my dog to work, which is awesome. He just hangs out with me or gets put into a doggy playgroup with his friends, depending on my day's activity level. He's super nice to everyone, but can be a little bit intimidating to some people at first, which is understandable since he's a 95-pound Doberman and they get a bit of a bad rap. So a few days ago, I was up in the front office on my own since my co-worker was on break. Two guys come in, and right off the bat, I'm like, damn, these dudes are high as kites. But whatever, this happens. We're located next to a large college, so it's to be expected. So, one of the dudes starts asking about volunteering because he has some community service hours due from some law-breaking thing he did, and I point him in the direction of the coordinator who does that. He goes, and the other guy stays and starts making idle conversation. What's my name, my birthday, favorite color? He compliments my tattoos and asks if I got them all for my birthday. I don't know, like I said, this town's weird so I don't question too much anymore. Then out of nowhere, he starts telling me how hot I am and asks for my last name. I had to give him my first because it's engraved on my shirt, but I lied about my last name. I should have just told him that I wasn't comfortable with giving him my last name, but I have too nice syndrome and honestly didn't want to be harassed further from saying no, as I have been in the past. So the other guy comes back and they leave and I take my break. And lo and behold, not even 10 minutes into my break, I get a text from my co-worker that the guys came back looking for me and not to come back into work. They leave about 20 minutes later. Phew, in the clear. So fast forward, the day's pretty much done and I'm just closing up shop. A different co-worker than the one I worked up front with comes and sees I'm hurrying to leave and asks me if he wants me to take my dog out to the yard we have in front of our property to do his business. I appreciate it and agree. My co-worker says he'll put him in my car too since it's parked next to his and he doesn't mind. I say sure since I have a few binders to carry out anyway and hand him my key and off they go, and he brings my key back like 15 minutes later. I'm the last to leave for the night besides co-worker 2 who is staying overnight till someone releases him in the morning. It's about 8 and already dark here, and the parking lot we have is so small that employees have to find street parking, which is a whole other level of shit. As I'm about halfway to my car, I can hear some low talking and footsteps behind me. It doesn't ring any bells at first. Lots of buildings and stuff on this street, and some homeless people mill about later at night, but they're pretty harmless. So I just keep on trucking. But not that many steps later, I hear the steps speed up, and a hand on my shoulder. The hand stopped me so abruptly, I end up dropping my binders with loose papers I just organized, so I'm a little irked now. I turn and freeze when I see it's the two guys from earlier. Did you need something? I asked, while a sinking feeling set in for some reason. I just want to know why you lied to my brother here about your name. You like them stuck-up birches who think they're too good, huh? The guy who wanted to volunteer asked. I stood there with my mouth like a fucking flytrap. No idea how he knew I lied when the other guy answered for me. He told me he found me on Facebook from searching my work and saw me or some shit. So I came up with the smoothest lie I could and said that I'm not allowed to give out my full name to customers for county law safety regulations, which is total bullshit, but they look like they believed it. While I'm saying all this, I see his hand resting on his pocket, and I subtly take in that they both have decent-sized pocket knives halfway concealed. I carry one myself for work, in case an animal ever gets caught on a leash or something, and we need to free them quickly, or if they come in with me with a collar embedded in their skin, and it's cutting off their oxygen. But I'm a 21-year-old girl that's 5'2" and 100 pounds. I'm not doing shit to two guys if it came down to it. I know that. So now, I'm wanting to fucking cry, while the volunteer guy is going on about how it's good that I'm not a stuck-up cunt, because they don't like stuck-up cunts, and they think that they all should be taught a lesson in mannerisms. And I'm just trying to think of how the hell to get the fuck out of here. There's no one around. I don't want to use my phone and call 911 or anyone in front of them. And I'm almost at my car, so I don't want to risk going back to work. The guy who's got the hots for me is staring at me like a damn Christmas ham, so I want to puke. Then they tell me about this party they're going to, and that I should come since I'm a good girl and good girls go to parties with them. The way the volunteer guy said it made it seem like an order and not a request. The hairs on the back of my neck went up. So I get an idea while he's talking, and just pray to the Almighty it fucking works. I force a relaxed smile and agree, saying that I just have to put my binders in my car or my boss will kill me. They look stoked with my agreement and proceed to follow me to my car. It's too dark to see inside the windows, and streetlights are a rare thing on this side of town. The businesses are pretty spaced, so the streets are not lit well. I get to the back door of my car, open it, and I smile when I see my dog's head pop up from the trunk out of his slumber. Before I even make a sound, his ears go up, and he starts growling. I hear a, "What the fuck is that?" behind me, and that's all it took for him to get his ass up and lunge for them, doing his best to get his large body between me and the door. I grab his collar and let him jump out of the car, out in front of me, and let me tell you, he is going nuts. He's got St. Bernard drool flying out of his mouth, and he's snapping and barking and growling something fucking scary. The guys back up and tell me that we can't bring my dog to the party, and to put my fucking deranged mutt back in the car. I hold back from rolling my eyes and apologize, saying that I'm just going to give him some dog food that I keep in the glove box. I shut my door and open the other front door, but the dog won't get in. He just keeps growling and snapping at the two guys, so I keep a hold on his collar and get in the driver's side first, then call him in. Thankfully, he reluctantly follows. I shut it as soon as his ass is in the passenger seat, hit the lock doors button, and turn on my car. As soon as I do that, they know that I'm not about to go to some fucking party with their dumbasses and start banging on my window. My dog goes into rage mode and hops in the back and starts going ballistic while I peel the fuck out of there, really not caring if I hit one of them. Once I'm down the street a bit, I see them in the rearview mirror, just staring at my car. I took the opposite direction in which I normally go home, just to make myself feel better, even though I have an hour commute home. As soon as I got home, I deactivated my Facebook. I told my boss the next day over the phone what happened, and they are working on transferring me to one of the other 2 shelters in the county, which is pretty sweet because all of them will still be a shorter commute. But it still sucks to be afraid to go into work. When I was about 13, my parents and I moved into an old house. It was at least 90 years old. It was large and it was in pretty good condition for a house that old. I was also an only child, and I got the second biggest room on the 2nd floor. And that room was huge. Sometimes my parents left me at home by myself for a few hours. Whether they were going shopping or on a date, I always asked to stay at home. I didn't mind staying at home because I like to think of myself as responsible and trustworthy, and it made me feel special. One night, at around 6 p.m. or so, my parents had to go run some errands. They were the kind of people who spent long hours out shopping for the best deals, and they used a lot of coupons on whatever they could, and I did not want to be involved with this at all. so I just decided not to come. I stayed in my room and watched some TV. Then at around 8 p.m, I got hungry and decided to get a snack. Now at this point, the house is very dark, so I grabbed my cell phone and use it as best as I can to light up the hallway, since the hallway didn't have any light. Now this was before cell phones had built-in flashlights, so I just used all the light my screen could give, till I made it to the kitchen. The kitchen light had been left on by my parents. I put my phone on the counter. As I was walking to the pantry, I saw a man hunched down in the corner by the back door. He was wearing black and red clothing, and he had long, greasy, unkempt hair. I didn't see his face because his head was facing the wall. He was holding a large knife. He didn't notice that I had spotted him. I wanted to scream, but I used my hand to cover my mouth and walked back upstairs, leaving my cell phone down there. I was not walking over to get it. We didn't have any phones upstairs, so I walked into my room, locked the door and hid in my closet. I start crying silently and start thinking the worst. He was going to find me and kill me. I just knew it. Then I heard someone coming up the stairs. Heavy footsteps. I felt sick and I had never been so afraid in my life. Then I heard someone open the door to my parents' room, which was 2 rooms away from mine. I then hear police sirens outside and I hear the door being knocked on. I breathe a sigh of relief. I hear the man running back down the stairs quickly and he's trying to open our back door. Then I hear our front door being pushed down and I heard footsteps of 2 people coming upstairs. And they start searching our home. The police come to my room and let me know it's safe. I open the door. I later found out that our neighbours saw this man unlocking our back door with a key and saw that he had a knife and called the police. My parents arrived a few minutes later and my mum started hugging me and crying. The man unfortunately escaped. I cried and cried and I got no sleep that night. Because the man had a key, we had to change the lock, but we eventually moved out of state anyway. I'm 23 now, and honestly, I haven't moved past it. But there are several questions I still have. How did he get that key? Why did he want to come to our house? What would he have done if the police showed up any later? Two months after my brother and his wife bought a new house, they had to go downtown and needed their cats fed. Their house and my office are both a good drive from my apartment, but only a few minutes away from each other. My brother said if I wanted, I could just stay over in the guest room rather than driving among the 3 places. So I got the keys and instructions. I was staying there 3 nights, Monday to Wednesday. Monday evening was uneventful until about midnight. I was lying on the living room couch watching Conan with a cat lying on my chest. I started to drift off to sleep. The next thing I knew, I was standing in the pitch black darkness. I completely freaked out. I had no idea where I was. I felt around in the dark and felt nothing. Finally I realized there actually was a faint blue light coming from above. I moved toward it and then understood where I was. I was in the fucking basement. The light was coming through the basement door at the top of the stairs, which leads to the kitchen. Just enough moonlight apparently made it through from a window elsewhere in the kitchen. I bolted up the stairs, turned on the kitchen light, and closed the basement door. I was terrified until I calmed down enough to come to the conclusion that you probably already came to. I had sleptwalked all the way down the stairs, and this was after opening the basement door, which I know was closed. A couple of things are important to the story. First, the basement. The house was really nice. Actually, more than they should have been able to afford. But the only exception was the basement. I had only seen the basement once, when I first got the tour. It was totally unfinished, and was the one major thing that they wanted to fix up. All they had down there were some boxes, and the washer and dryer. I had no reason to want to go down there, and had kind of forgotten it existed. The other point is that sleepwalking is kind of a thing in my family, almost an inside joke. My brother talked in his sleep constantly, and would sleepwalk sometimes, and it always scared the hell out of me. The idea of people doing things in their sleep just creeps me out to the core. My brother knew this and would tease me about it, so it was known in my family that I had this phobia. But as far as I know, I had never, ever sleepwalked until that night. The image kept playing in my mind over and over of me asleep, getting up from the couch, walking to the kitchen and opening the basement door, then shuffling down the stairs into total darkness. It was creepy as all hell. Anyway, I saw that the TV was still on in the living room, playing Wedding Crashers. I watched the rest of the movie, trying to laugh and think of the sleepwalking as a funny story to tell my brother. When I went upstairs to go to sleep in the guest room, I stayed asleep. That was night 1. The next morning, in the light of the day, it didn't seem that scary. I texted my brother about it and joked around. All day, I wasn't bothered one bit. But as I'm walking out of the office to my car, I'm overcome with this sense of dread. All of a sudden, the thought of going to sleep in that house, and maybe sleepwalking again, is scaring me. So, I had a plan. I stop at the hardware store and pick up one of those rubber door stopper wedges. At the house, I jam this into the crack under the basement door, and kick it in until it's as far as it can go. I test out trying to open the door and it won't budge. Perfect. Later, I go upstairs and fall asleep. When I wake up, I swear that I think I'm dreaming. I was standing in the darkness again, but this time I know exactly where I am. The smell is the same. The concrete floor under my feet is the same. I look around for the light from upstairs, and it takes me longer to find it because it's farther away. Last night I was only a couple of feet from the stairs. This night, it was maybe 10 feet. I run up and turn on the kitchen lights. I see the rubber wedge on the floor, a couple of feet away, as if tossed there. Again, I can't stop picturing myself sleepwalking. Out of the bedroom, down the stairs, trying to open the basement door, bending down and yanking at the wedge, and then, again, slowly into the darkness. I decided I was turning on the basement lights, and they were staying on. I opened the door and flipped the switch to the basement stairway. I saw there was a main switch at the bottom of the stairs. To give you a quick sense of the layout, the staircase splits the basement into 2 parts. To the right is a small area with the washer-dryer, and to the left is the big open area. Anyway, I walk down and turn on the lights for the whole basement. That's when I noticed something that I hadn't noticed when my brother gave me the tour. About 10 to 15 feet away, in the big area, there was a door that looked like a small closet. The door was closed but had no doorknob, just an empty hole, so it looked like it would freely swing open. I realized it was very close to where I had just awoken. Then, a fucking freaky thought came to me. It was as if each night I was heading to the door and getting a little farther each time before I woke up. As soon as that thought popped into my head, I booked it up the stairs again, left the lights on, and closed the door. I went up to the bedroom, but it took me forever to fall asleep. And that was night 2. The next morning, Wednesday morning, I woke up late for work. I didn't think about the basement at all because I was scrambling to get ready. At work though, I was still curious about what was behind the door, so I texted my brother and asked. He replied with, "Wait, why were you in the basement?" I realized that when I texted him the day before, I never actually told him where I woke up, so I tell him I woke up in the basement, actually twice in a row. After a while, he sends this novel-length text about how the basement is creepy, not to go down there, etc. How they tried putting the litter boxes in the basement and the cats made a mess in the house because they refused to go down there. How he volunteers to do every chore other than the laundry so he doesn't have to go down there. He says all this stuff, and it surprises me because my brother never believed in the paranormal or superstitions ever since we were kids. I also realize he never answered my question about the door, but I let it go. After work, I get the same feeling of dread as I'm walking to my car. I really don't want to stay there again, and I decide, fuck it, I don't have to. So I go feed the cats, get my stuff, and drive back to my place. I'm supposed to feed the cats one more time, so I'll stop over in the morning. As I went to sleep at my apartment, I was thinking about all the steps I would have to take to sleepwalk to the basement again, find my car parked around the block, drive asleep to my brother's house, etc. But this time, I slept through the night, and that was night 3. Thursday morning, I stop at the house as planned. I'm about to leave when I remember that the basement lights are still on. I don't even hesitate to go and turn them off. There was something about being there in the morning that, at the time, made it seem fine. When I go down, again, that door without a doorknob catches my eye, and it also doesn't seem scary anymore. So, what the hell, let's see. I walk over to it, and I distinctly remember not feeling spooked at all, until I reach my hand toward the doorknob hole to pull it open. As soon as I do that, and I mean instantly, I feel this electric feeling, like the air before a storm, and I imagine a hand coming through that hole and grabbing mine. It was like 0 to 60, going from no fear to being certain that something horrible would happen if I opened that door. It's hard to describe it other than the electric feeling. I booked it upstairs and straight out of the house. So, a month later, I meet my brother for happy hour. A few drinks in and we start joking about me sleepwalking in the creepy basement. I say he never answered me about what's behind the door, and he says I don't want to know. Joking at first, but then insisting. Finally, he tells me, and I don't believe him. He's my big brother and has only bullshitted me about 1,000,000 times in my life. This was his explanation. The previous and first owners of the house had a teen daughter that used to use the basement as her bedroom. The door was to a closet where one night she curled up, took some pills, and killed herself. The family was going to remodel the basement, but after tearing it apart, realized that they couldn't do it and had to move. That was why only the basement was unfinished, and why my brother was able to afford the place. The seller had to disclose that a suicide happened in the residence. He said if I don't believe him, to look up the market values of the identical houses in his tract. I know how much they paid for the house, and it was way lower. He and his wife considered themselves rational people and figured it was a bargain, but didn't want to tell anyone. After they moved in, his wife was fine with the basement, but he grew to hate it. He apologized for not saying anything to me before I stayed there, but he never thought that I'd have any reason to go down there. Now, here's what convinced me. I said, okay, the only thing that kind of makes me believe you is that the last morning I was there, I went over to the closet door, and at this point, I see my brother's face change, and I continued. When I went to open it, the air felt like, and at the same instant, I say electricity, and my brother says electric. At the exact same time, I saw his face and knew then that he was telling the truth. I've never stepped foot again in that basement, and I haven't sleptwalked since.